Most news stories of late are extremely difficult to believe. Global wars, economic uncertainty, a police state rising. And in the midst of all of this are the persistent headlines of emerging and sometimes bizarre technologies. Fully automated robots in the workforce. Incredible advances in the understanding of health and immunity. Life extension technologies. Brain implantable microchips with unimaginable applications.
We're going to be able to send nanobots, blood cell-sized devices, inside our bloodstream. They'll keep us healthy from inside, and they'll go inside our brains. And if that sounds very futuristic, there are already people that have computers in their brains.
What will humanity look like in the next 10 or 20 years? A human with the perfect immune system and enhanced health functions? An infinitely smarter person with their brains and minds always attached to the internet? Or how about a person with the power to control their environment just by using their thoughts? It's almost impossible to say. The technological possibilities are infinite. Is this technology just being randomly developed by thousands of talented scientists and engineers without any real plan for the future paradigm that it's going to create? Or has there been a group envisioning this future all along?
If you study the 16th, 17th, and 18th century manifestos and books about the Rosicrucians, as I did in the libraries and archives, you see that there's mention of all kinds of technological devices. I describe such a chamber in my book, the wonders that one saw when he entered the room of an alchemist who recently had died, and the alchemist had bequeathed the will to the person, and the person enters the room, and what he describes, well, it reads like 21st century technology.
It may not surprise many viewers that there is a plan which has been discussed for decades amongst the top European and American social elite, who spend their time gathering in closed-door clubs dedicated to the occult.
Now, wait a minute. What is the occult anyway? The word occult comes from, simply means something that's hidden. And they used that back during the Middle Ages when somebody was going against the conventional church doctrine. Then they'd say, well, they're occultists. They're looking into the occult. And this range is a pretty good wide range in occultism anyway, all the way from tree worship or nature worship, all the way to worship of the devil, worship of some, anthropological, being somewhere.
Sometimes throughout history, whether because of strategy or because of moral obligation, world leaders will open the curtains ever so slightly, giving the general public an opportunity to glimpse into the secret world of the elite. In the year 1856, an industrial revolution was threatening to overthrow the traditional agrarian forces in Italy. In England, Parliament was debating over whether England should intervene in the Italian crisis, when during this debate, Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli warned, "There is in Italy a power which we seldom mention in this House, but without considering and understanding which we shall never rightly comprehend the position of Italy. I mean the secret societies. The secret societies do not care for constitutional government. They do not want existing society ameliorated, they want it changed." He goes on to say, "It is useless to deny, because it is impossible to conceal, that a great part of Europe, the whole of Italy and France, and a great portion of Germany, to say nothing of other countries, are covered with a network of these secret societies." Disraeli gave this warning to prevent England from miscalculating the outcome of their intervention.
There was a war in Italy going on, and Italy was infested with secret societies of all kinds and all shapes. But not only Italy, in fact, the whole of Europe was infested and was out of balance because of all the secret societies that were running around, plotting, scheming. It was a terrible time of upheaval if you look closely upon the situation of the 19th century.
According to Disraeli, the secret occult groups are a genuine power in Europe who can and will influence the outcome of England's actions in their favor. While this speech was given over 150 years ago, not much has changed in the secret lives of the global elite. Every July, the world's top politicians, bankers, corporate financiers, academics, and other elite members gather in Northern California for the annual Bohemian Grove Retreat. This 2-week all-male get-together kicks off with their traditional cremation of care ceremony, where they burn the body of Care in effigy in front of the mysterious Great Owl and Eternal Flame. Technologies such as the Star Wars Missile Defense Shield and the Manhattan Project were first discussed at the Bohemian Grove. The mysterious Georgia Guidestones stand as a monument to modern occultism. Sometimes called the American Stonehenge, it is unknown who commissioned this structure or why. What we do know is what the monument calls for: a world government with a world court, and the requirement that the human population never exceed 500 million. Presently, that means a reduction of about 6.5 billion people. Interestingly, these calls are similar to the recent papal encyclical, in which Pope Francis calls for a global political authority to tackle global warming. What's even more alarming is who will be on the stage with the Pope when this encyclical is formally released. John Schellenhuber is a German professor that has some very radical views on climate change, including the belief that our planet is overpopulated by at least 6 billion people. Clinton White House insider Larry Nichols shared his eyewitness account of Hillary Clinton's witchcraft retreats.
I was there, folks. You understand, there's a difference in somebody that saw it or read it somewhere. I was there. Hillary would go on the weekend. About every 4th, 5th weekend, she would disappear out to California. Finally, she came back and I'd say, Hillary, what on earth is happening in California? She was running with her actress buddies, Linda Bloodworth Thomason and that crew. And she never told me. Finally, Bill told me that she goes out there to some kind of witch's church. And I said, you've got to be kidding me, Bill. No. He said, oh, no, man, she does.
There are countless other modern instances where the secret occult beliefs of the global social elite are revealed. Just as Disraeli warned his parliament that they can't estimate an accurate outcome without factoring in the agenda of the secret societies, the same is true today. If we do not consider the agendas of these modern and powerfully connected occult organizations, then we will never understand the true motivation behind much of the political and corporate decisions being made today.
It's really interesting and somewhat scary when you consider that behind some of the push for what has now come to be called the New World Order, or I guess you call it a global socialist system, is the idea that there is this occultism there. You get to the very top of the power pyramid and you find people who will go to occult ceremonies, wear robes. The Stanley Kubrick film, Eyes Wide Shut, was not totally fiction.
Lead on, old care, and all the winds make merry with thy ducks. Hail, fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free.
So what does all of this have to do with technology? Author and historian Theo Paymans reveals in his book, Free Energy Pioneer John Worrell Keeley, that occult societies are just as obsessed with avant-garde technology as they are with exotic rituals.
19th century extremely wealthy people were definitely not only interested in, just gathering into some kind of hall and pulling down a pentagram and mumbling some evocations toward this or that deity.
Occult groups routinely experimented with perpetual motion machines and zero-point energy motors.
Oftentimes, when these occultists had these ideas and these avant-garde scientists And they married those ideas into what I call occult technology. They created incredible machines and devices, or prototypes of machines and devices, but they often would not work, or they worked in incomprehensible ways, or in ways that you couldn't predict.
Rudolf Steiner said that certain mysterious societies have knowledge and understanding of occult avant-garde technological advances and energy sources, and that these affairs are being guarded as a secret in those circles on the subject of material occultism. But they will, when that which I call mechanical occultism will be put in practice, which is an ideal of these secret circles, they will achieve about 1,000 million in human labor.
Rudolf Steiner was the founder of the anthroposophical movement, but he came from the Theosophical Society. And Rudolf Steiner once commented about secrets that were guarded in the inner circles of certain secret societies, and secrets not involving secrets of age-old occultism, like summoning demons from ancient grimoires, but secrets having to do with a strange kind of technology. He was discussing devices, machines, or apparatuses, the like the world had never seen. You could compare it a bit with, say, the machinated robot factories of today. And we see now that there's a huge unemployment amidst people, the craftsmen, the laborers who built these things, because now robots are doing it.
With all the problems going on in the world today, I don't think the general population is prepared for what we're going to be facing in the very near future, and that is the problem of robotics. Right now, robotics is already causing a problem by taking jobs from working people, but it's even getting stranger than that. With implants and with conditioning, with chemical therapy, they're beginning not only to mess with people in a physical way, but then mess with us mentally, psychologically, intellectually. And this is going to become an ever-growing problem in the future.
Mechanical occultism will not only make 9/10 of the labor superfluous, it will also make it possible to paralyze every rebellion of the unsatisfied masses. Of this, those secret societies are well aware. On this they count when they will attain the dominance over the entire population of the Earth. Are we actually starting to see Steiner's vision take form? An automated robotic workforce, from manual labor to executive office jobs, are now being installed throughout the world, which does threaten to render human labor superfluous. Those large arm assembly line robots we're used to seeing doing the work in car manufacturing plants are yesterday's technology. Today's robotic workforce is much smaller, much cheaper, and capable of doing a variety of jobs, including executive and creative jobs. Compared to the cost of an average annual salary for just about any employee, including minimum wage workers, the robotic workers' one-time cost and near perfection in their job execution is a very appealing option. Especially now, since many cities are nearly doubling their minimum wage rate, and robots don't go on strike.
Is this exactly the same as what Rudolf Steiner meant? He envisioned machines. These machines could be steered by the thought, by the willpower, by the force of the will. So what we would be having is something that goes beyond, say, the robotic workers that we see now in the factories, because in fact they are just mechanical devices following a prescriptive program. But what Rudolf Steiner in fact talked about was the next stage. So the stage what we will be seeing after this robotic workforce, and that is some kind of golemic creature, some kind of artificial creature, artificially imbibed with some kind of shadow intelligence, some kind of dumb slave, yet with a flicker, a glimmer of intelligence, so that it can do slightly more than, say, just bolting in a rivet and doing that 1,000 times a day. Think, for instance, the weird robots that you saw in the Terminator series, stuff like that.
With some of these new techniques where they can alter our thinking, alter our emotions, in certain instances, someone who has a severe and definite mental problem, this could be a wonderful solution to bring them back to a more normal lifestyle. But the big question is, what about the misuse of this? by reprogramming people and programming them into being little automatons. And that leads, of course, to the question is who is going to decide the application of this technology?
Anyone who is following the technology trends knows that the reality of a fully automated labor force is right around the corner. History is filled with inaccurate predictions about machines replacing the human workforce to bring about an apocalyptic-like scenario for humanity. Some might say that we are sounding the same alarms that other doom and gloomers have in the past. At a recent artificial intelligence conference here in Austin, we ran into Max Tegmark, the co-founder of Future of Life Institute. We asked him to explain some of the emerging problems as he sees it.
It used to be, 300 years ago that machines during the Industrial Revolution replaced blue-collar work, very easy-to-do jobs, and then those people got educated and got better-paying jobs. Today, instead, our machines are replacing not the muscle work, but the brain work, right? And when you lose that kind of job, the only place you can go in the economy is usually downward in pay scale. So there are really interesting questions.
Official unemployment projections for the next 10 years predict lower unemployment numbers and a surge in the economy. Of course, none of these statistics bothered to factor in automation.
It's a difficult problem, and I was at a meeting where there were 5 Nobel Prize-winning economists, and all they wanted to talk about was this question. What's the future of employment and the structure of the economy when most of what we call work now is being done by robots? And unfortunately, even though that was what they really cared about, they had no suggestions.
Another talking point that attempts to quell the fears of an upcoming economic and social robot apocalypse reminds us that in any economy, there must be consumers with money to purchase the items the industry is manufacturing. Here is an example of applying 19th and 20th century economics to a 21st century problem. We're in new territory. Sales profits can be razor thin because the cost of labor will be automated away. The current model of economics will be different in the near future, so the model regarding supply and demand might not apply as it has in the last few centuries. In July 2013, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers addressed a crowd at the National Bureau of Economic Research Summer Institute. He said, "Until a few years ago, I didn't think this was a very complicated subject. The Luddites were wrong, and the believers in technology and technological progress were right. I'm not so completely certain now." Computers and robots are designed not simply to extend human work capacity, but to eliminate the need for humans altogether. Just as Steiner warned that the same machines that will replace the workforce can also be used to paralyze every rebellion of the unsatisfied masses, we're also witnessing the militarization of our police. Combine this grid with fully autonomous militarized robotics, and Steiner's startling prediction of a technology that will replace our workforce and paralyze humanity suddenly becomes urgent. Humanity is on the brink of a crisis, and now may be our last chance to solve this mortal problem. In Part 2, we'll focus on the centuries-old plan to combine man with machine, gain superhuman abilities, and live forever. It's a vision which is rapidly becoming reality within the transhumanist movement.